A massive spacecraft in Greenland discovered shortly after World War II that they believe could be responsible for the last ice age. I've searched high and low, haven't been able to figure out who this gentleman actually is. Whether he's a professor, just a speaker on UFOs, or what. If you know, please inform me. I'd like to do a little more digging on this subject. But he has some mind-blowing information. He basically claims that there's a massive UFO in Greenland that has just been exposed due to the melting ice caps. He then goes on to explain that this UFO was discovered in 1947 when a B-52 bomber actually goes down due to its resonant field. It apparently shuts all electronics down as you enter this 200-mile radius.
How many of you know about the object in Greenland? A couple of you, okay. Well, for those of you that don't know, there is a spacecraft that has melted out of the ice in Greenland. As you know, the North Pole has melted completely. You can go from London to Moscow or to Russia by going over the North Pole now. All the ice cap is gone. The last place that has ice on it was Greenland. Greenland had a 18,000-foot ice cap on it. Well, the spacecraft that is anchored in the center of Greenland created the last ice age 50,000 years ago. It's a weather machine. It's 55 miles wide, 300 miles long, and 2 miles high. The people that lived in it were called the Mois. If you draw a straight line from the spacecraft to the Washington Monument in Washington, D.C., through the Yucatan Peninsula Great Pyramid at Mitsubishi, it ends up on Easter Island where the Mois have been dug out of this dirt. The heads on Easter Island, well, 2 years ago they finally went ahead and they excavated, and they're all 65 to 85 foot people, full body carvings. And these were the people that lived in the spacecraft that was uncovered that's melting out of the ice in Greenland. So when you think we've been alone, these people have been up there for 50,000 years. The spacecraft is still active after 50,000 years. It has a 200-mile dampening field where no electrons can flow into it. In 1947, a B-52 bomber flew into that pattern, into the dampening field, when trying to fly between Maine and London. As a result of that, they lost power and crashed in Greenland. As they sent in rescue B-52 bombers to rescue them, they hit that same dampening field, but they veered off. They just ricocheted off of it. And by testing, trying to get to these guys, they were able to ring a circumference and find out that there was an object 200 miles to the center of this field. On the southwest corner of Greenland, there is a small community. It's the only community on the island of Greenland. That community is a military post, CIA, that uses a compressed air generator to operate diesel engines to run a Caterpillar to run back and forth to 200 miles from the base to the object in Greenland. A lot of our technology comes from the reverse engineering out of the spacecraft. It is still functional and is still in operation. So it's pretty important what this thing is. All the nations worldwide are up there with the United Nations, and they're all acting, working together. Point is that we're not alone out here in this universe.
The only thing that doesn't make sense about his claim is B-52 bombers had their maiden flight in 1952. At the time of the accident in 1947, there were no B-52 bombers, but that would be an easy mistake to make. I did a little digging, and there was a wreck in 1947 of a B-29 bomber called the Keybird. With growing tensions in U.S.-Soviet relations at the time, the B-29 surveillance plane explored the possibility of attacking Soviet targets via Great Circle routes over the North Pole as a part of Project Nanook. Long story short, during one of its missions in 1947, it was at 24,000 feet when it ran into a blizzard and lost control of all steering. They ended up landing in northwest Greenland on a frozen lake. But nobody really knew why they lost steering control. They'd send search and rescue teams, and it took 3 days to get to the men. All the crew survived. So essentially, anything that got within a 200-mile radius of this UFO, which was 2 miles tall, 55 miles wide, and 300 miles long. What's more baffling is they claimed that the UFO is still active today, and that it possibly was responsible for the world's ice age. They believe the craft to be able to control weather anomalies, and that it's over 50,000 years old. What's more is his claim is that they came to the conclusion that the craft was operated by a group of extraterrestrials known as the Mois. They were a sort of tribal extraterrestrial. He also goes on to claim that if you draw a straight line from the craft to the Washington Monument through the Yucatan Peninsula, where there are pyramids, to Easter Island, it's actually a perfect straight line, in that he believes that the statues at Easter Island, which, if you didn't know, they had dug up and found out that they're 65 to 80 feet tall statues, and that these statues actually represent the Moise people. A pretty mind-blowing claim. A craft that is of that size can essentially control weather and is still active 50,000 years later. And after doing some more research, it's in about the same area as the base that we have there now. It's now known as Pituffik Space Base. It's America's northernmost Space Force base used today. The only place on Earth where 4 active glaciers join together. The base is home to a substantial portion of a global network of missile warning sensors of Space Delta IV and space surveillance and space control sensors of Space Delta II, providing space awareness and advanced missile detection capabilities to North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, the United States Space Force, and joint partners. He then goes on to say that since we discovered it in the 40s and 50s, we have been reverse engineering this craft, and a lot of our technology today actually comes from it. And I gotta say, they've done well at keeping this one under wraps, because this is the first I've heard anything like this. And I've been researching, making content about this for over 2 or 3 years now. Many also believe this is the reason that they made Camp Sentry, or Project Iceworm, a top-secret United States Army program during the Cold War, which aimed to build a network of mobile nuclear missile launch sites under the Greenland ice sheet. The end goal was to install a vast network of nuclear missile launch sites that could survive a first strike. This was according to documents declassified in '96, so they really never actually reached an agreement with the Danish government. This, coupled with the fact that they had a hard time actually keeping the tunnels from melting and caving in throughout the project. The official purpose of Camp Sentry, as explained by the United States Department of Defense to Danish officials in 1960, was to test various construction techniques under Arctic conditions, explore practical problems with a semi-mobile nuclear reactor, as well as supporting scientific experiments on the ice cap. A total of 21 trenches were cut and covered with arched roofs within the prefabricated buildings that were erected. With a total of 3,000 meters or 1.9 miles, these tunnels also contained a hospital, a shop, a theater, and a church. The total number of inhabitants was approximately 200. From 1960 until 63, the electric supply was provided by the world's first mobile nuclear reactor, designated and designed by Alco for the U.S. Army. They also claim one of the reasons they shut it down was the actual heat produced by people living underground in the ice. At least that's what they claim. But maybe, just maybe, they actually dug the tunnel to the said craft. Let me know what you think in the comments. Pretty mind-blowing stuff, and this is just scratching the surface. It's very fascinating, to say the least. Do me a solid, y'all. Let me know in the comments what you've heard about this, or if you have any new information. Tag me in the link. Also, let me know what y'all think about my new production style. I'm adding a little flavor or a little flair to my videos. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was worth the wait. And continue watching. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe. It really helps my overall at the end of the day. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you had a good Valentine's Day as well. Stay in the love, stay in the light, be kind to others. I am out.